The rock world has a way of marking time through sound, and some mornings feel quieter than others. When news spread that Brad Arnold's journey had reached its final chapter, it landed with a weight that words struggled to carry. For fans who grew up with his voice echoing through car radios, dorm rooms, and late-night drives, it felt deeply personal. Brad Arnold was never just a singer fronting a successful band. He was a familiar presence, a voice that felt like it belonged to everyday life. His passing at a young age left many grappling with disbelief, not only because of the loss itself, but because his music had always sounded so alive, so resilient. This is not a story meant to dwell on tragedy alone. It is a moment to pause, to remember, and to understand why his absence feels so profound. To tell it properly, we must look beyond the headlines and return to the beginning. A small town and a simple beginning. Long before sold-out arenas and platinum records, Brad Arnold was a teenager in Escatawpa, Mississippi, a place defined more by familiarity than ambition. It was there, inside an ordinary high school classroom, that something extraordinary began to take shape. While most students focused on equations and the ticking clock, Brad scribbled lyrics in the margins of his notebook. He wasn't chasing fame, he was simply responding to a feeling he didn't yet have words for. That feeling became Kryptonite, a song written with the honesty of youth and the insight of someone already wrestling with vulnerability. Alongside friends Matt Roberts and Todd Harrell, Brad formed Three Doors Down with no grand expectations. They played local shows, hauled their own equipment, and learned their craft the slow way. What they had was not polish, but sincerity, and it would change everything. When lightning finally struck, the year 2000 marked a turning point that few bands ever experience. When The Better Life was released, it didn't creep into public awareness, it exploded. Kryptonite surged through radio stations with unstoppable momentum, capturing something audiences didn't realize they were missing. Brad's voice wasn't flashy or theatrical. It sounded human, uncertain, and strong all at once. The album's success felt almost unreal for a group from Mississippi who had spent years playing to modest crowds. Suddenly, they were everywhere. Awards followed, tours expanded, and expectations grew heavier with each passing week. Yet Brad never seemed fully comfortable with the spotlight. He stood on stage not as a manufactured star, but as a regular guy trying to keep up with the speed of his own life. That relatability became the band's greatest strength, anchoring their rise in authenticity rather than spectacle. Songs that spoke for millions. Three Doors Down never relied on one anthem alone. Songs like Loser, Duck and Run, and later Here Without You proved Brad's songwriting depth extended far beyond a breakout hit. His lyrics touched on loneliness, longing, self-doubt, and hope without dressing them up in grand metaphors. People heard themselves in those words. Here Without You became more than a love song. It turned into a companion for separation, distance, and loss. Military families, long-distance partners, and grieving listeners found comfort in its quiet honesty. Brad sang as if he understood the weight people carried into those moments. That connection wasn't accidental. He wrote from lived emotion, not performance. Over time, his catalog became a soundtrack to real life, woven into memories people would carry forever. That is a rare achievement, one that cannot be measured by charts alone. Success, without the armor of stardom. As fame grew, Brad Arnold remained an unlikely rock star. He didn't cultivate mystery or rebellion. He showed up in jeans and t-shirts, speaking plainly and performing with conviction rather than excess. That approach made him approachable, but it also left him exposed. The demands of touring, constant travel, and public expectation can erode even the strongest foundations. While audiences saw confidence under stage lights, the reality behind the scenes was more complicated. Brad carried the responsibility of being the band's voice and emotional center. He felt accountable not only to fans, but to the friends who built the dream alongside him. Success brought opportunity, but it also magnified pressure. Over time, the distance between who he was on stage and who he was in quiet moments began to grow. It's a familiar story in music, but no less heavy when lived firsthand. Loss, survival, and quiet strength. The years that followed brought profound personal loss. The passing of guitarist Matt Roberts and the struggles faced by Todd Harrell reshaped the band's foundation and left Brad navigating grief while continuing forward. Being the one still standing is not always a victory. It can feel isolating, even unfair. Brad never framed himself as a hero for enduring. Instead, he acknowledged the pain and carried it privately. He understood how fragile success could be and how quickly life could change course. Through it all, he leaned into accountability, choosing growth over collapse. He spoke openly about recovery, faith, and the importance of staying present. That honesty resonated with fans who were fighting their own battles. Brad's resilience wasn't loud or dramatic. It was steady, imperfect, and deeply human, reminding people that strength often looks like simply choosing to keep going. A battle faced with dignity. When Brad eventually shared that he was facing a serious illness, it reframed everything that came before it. He did not deliver the news with despair or anger. Instead, he spoke calmly, focusing less on fear and more on gratitude. He continued to engage with fans, expressing appreciation rather than seeking sympathy. His message was consistent. Life is fragile, but meaning remains. Brad approached uncertainty with the same sincerity that defined his music. He acknowledged the reality of the moment without letting it define him. For those watching, it was a powerful example of grace under pressure. He reminded people that vulnerability is not weakness, and that facing hardship openly can bring unexpected clarity. Even as his energy faded, his voice carried something stronger than fear, a sense of peace, grounded in acceptance. The weight of a final goodbye. As time moved forward, it became clear that Brad was preparing those around him for a farewell without ever dramatizing it. He focused on his family, his faith, and the connections that mattered most. There was no grand exit, no staged final performance. Instead, there was intention in small moments and meaning in quiet presence. When the end came, it was marked by peace rather than chaos, surrounded by love rather than noise. For fans, the loss felt deeply personal, as though a familiar companion had slipped away. Yet there was comfort in knowing that Brad had faced his final chapter on his own terms. His life did not conclude with scandal or bitterness, but with reflection and resolve. That alone speaks volumes about the man behind the music. What remains after the silence music has a way of outliving its creator, and Brad Arnold's voice continues to travel where time cannot. Every replay of Kryptonite, or Here Without You, carries a piece of who he was into the present. His songs remain woven into personal milestones, long drives, and moments of quiet reflection. That permanence is not accidental. It comes from writing honestly and singing without pretense. Brad never tried to be larger than life. He simply told the truth as he understood it. In doing so, he left behind something enduring. While his absence is deeply felt, his presence has not disappeared. It echoes in lyrics remembered by heart and melodies that still feel familiar. That is the legacy of an artist who created not for fame, but for connection. A legacy measured in meaning. Brad Arnold's story is not defined by how it ended, but by how it was lived. He showed that greatness does not require perfection, only sincerity. From a small-town classroom to global stages, he remained rooted in who he was. His music offered comfort without preaching and strength without bravado. In remembering him, Fans are reminded to value the moments that matter and to face uncertainty with courage. His life encourages reflection rather than regret, gratitude rather than fear. While the rock world continues forward, it does so carrying the imprint of a voice that mattered. Brad Arnold may no longer be here to sing, but what he gave remains alive. And for those who found pieces of themselves in his songs, that connection will never fade.